This week, we're discussing some updates around Xbox's attempt to acquire Activision, as well as highlighting some games we're looking forward to. This is the Good Game, Bad Game podcast.
This is a song I wrote about the Good Game, Bad Game podcast. Good Game, Bad Game podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Good Game, Bad Game podcast. I'm your host, Spencer, and with me is a man who got into the beta test for Dr. Disrespect's new game, and oh my god, what's this? He's extracting with something worth $100,000, and it's worth nothing. It's my co-host, Mike. Mike, how are you?
It was better before I got rug pulled. You also just completely reminded me that I signed up for the skate beta test or alpha, I guess it is at this point.
Uh-huh.
And I keep seeing people playing it. And I was like, what the fuck? I never it seems like they're letting everybody in. So why? Probably like, sir, you're 26, fat, and still on real life skateboard. So
Such an aggressive attack. I was just gonna say they hate you.
they might.
Well, that aside, how have you been? Tell me about your weekend games.
I have started dumping time into another game.
Oh.
That's not Madden or Rise Son of Rome.
Oh.
Which I did play a little bit more of that. Not a ton, but a little bit. But I jumped back into Forza Horizon 5 this week.
Nice.
And that has been my just complete time suck game. I forgot how much fun that game is.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't played it since the Hot Wheels DLC came out.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't remember if when Forza Horizon came out, I'm pretty sure I bought the content pack, like the season pass thing.
Okay.
Got the game for Game Pass. And I think I also got a discount on upgrading it to the premium version or something like that.
Yeah, I think I remember you saying that.
Yeah. So got the Hot Wheels content, and that is just so much fun. Actually, Justine played it first because we were looking for a multiplayer game to play and like a racing game. We weren't sure if we could split screen Forza or not.
Mm-hmm.
We can't, so that sucks. But
Rip.
I downloaded it on my One X, so we're gonna see if that works. Like if we can do multiplayer that way, just deal with the loading times. But the Hot Wheels DLC is so much fun. It is just go as fast as possible. Whereas the regular races in Forza Horizon can tend to be a little more tactical. Like you can't just haul ass through it or else you'll just end up in the desert.
Sure.
It's just fun to be able to just go fast and do loops and shit. So I've been playing a ton of that. A little bit of Madden, candidly, but most of the time, when I've just wanted to play a game for the sake of playing a game, that had been Madden, and now it's Forza, and I will just drive around the map with no intent,
Sure.
and it is so much fun.
I love that.
Me too.
And then you said you did play some more Rise, Son of Rome?
I did. Again, not regretting my decision to play on easy because I just feel like more and more of a badass, especially now there's boss fights, which I didn't realize was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And just to be able to go in and just parry and counter everything, and it looks so perfect.
Yeah, love that.
So still a lot of fun. I think I'm about halfway through that game.
Oh, nice.
Correctly. Every time I play it, I get through a 23 to 25% chunk. So I really only have 2 play sessions left.
Very nice.
How is MLB didn't come out yet, did it?
No, not quite yet, but it's funny you should say that.
Is that right?
I had a weird week in games. Um, as you all know, trying to platinum games before they leave PlayStation Plus, so on and
Mhm.
so forth. One of the games that's leaving um, in about 2 weeks is Monster Energy Supercross, the video game 5. And kind of nice because it's just like a mindless like dirt bike game, right? Like you're just racing and that's it. So it's like easy to just like put time into whatever. Put a lot of time into it on Saturday and then realized that one of the like trophies is tied to these like training sessions. Not to get too into it, but they're really like real mingy, real annoying. And I was trying on like Monday, I want to say. Um, no, it must have been Sunday to do it. And I was just like, nope, fuck this. I hate this. I'm not having fun anymore. So I'm done. So I earned like 45 of the 50 trophies. And that one's going to hurt a little bit. That one's definitely going to hurt because of the time suck. Um,
That's gonna be the one you come back to in 7 years. That's gonna be your NCAA.
yeah, maybe, except it has to be free at some point on PS Plus because I'm definitely not going to pay for it to try and finish the platinum. Um,
That's quitter talk right there.
yeah, oh no, definitely. No, you're not. Yeah, it is. You're absolutely right. Um, but yeah, so gave up on that. None of the other games that are leaving were really like calling to me as like all that interesting. So I was just like, you know what? I'm a free man. I'm a free man until I know what games are leaving next, and then until MLB comes out, what do I want to play? But I was so annoyed to have uh, a platinum kind of ripped from my clutches that I decided to start playing MLB. But the PS4 version of MLB The Show 22, so that I could earn a platinum. And when I tell you that I earned that platinum in 4 hours worth of playing, I shit you not that I earned the platinum in 4 hours. And then I was
I'm
just like,
sorry, for what game?
for MLB The Show 22.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, the PS4 version of it. So I felt redeemed at that point. Like I felt so much better about the whole Monster Energy thing. Um, and then I was still going back and forth on like what should I actually be playing. I kept telling myself I should really jump back into The Witcher and just like sink a ton of time into that. And so I decided to start playing Saints Row again, um, to work on cleaning up because I still have to like, you know how those games are where it's like do everything in this district, take over the entire map. It's like one of those things.
Mhm.
And so I still have like a fuck ton of cleanup to do in that game, which is definitely my biggest gripe with it. Uh, but yeah, so that's it. That's oh, and then Hades. I did beat the story of Hades literally last night. After my 10th run completed. Um,
And
and phenomenal. Like really phenomenal game. And now at this point, it's just like any other like it's just like binding. Like I can now just like load it up and just keep doing runs. Like doesn't matter, you know, you just keep going. I was curious how they were gonna like fit that into the story, but they like made it work and it, like makes sense. So I was like, yeah, cool. And so um plan to keep playing that probably like especially like on stream to you know just keep like chipping away at like some trophies there and stuff and just because it's so much fun. But yeah, and that's actually it.
well, that was a good little list.
Yeah, but a whole 2 weeks before MLB comes out. I did pre-order MLB, so the time is
Yeah,
quickly approaching.
yeah, I did too,
Yeah, fuck you.
for free.
Yeah,
I'm being
yeah, yeah.
Do you know
Um,
what that $70 could have gone towards?
what?
A Series S.
Well, joke's on you because it was $100 because I got the collector's edition.
Oh, yes. Man, do I feel like a fool now.
No, but I do. Um, no, you're right. I could have, but I didn't, and that's kind of it.
That's okay.
I'm actually, you know, to be totally honest with you, I've actually been going back and forth on it ever since you sent me the that Series S listing. Um, I I don't know if I want to get a Series S.
No?
I think I just want to get a Series X.
Okay.
Like that's I don't know. Like I've been going back and forth on it, and I think kind of what like put the nail in the coffin for me is that if I were like truly on like a really like strict budget and like didn't already have one of like the current gen consoles, I think I then would just go for the Series S and then like down the road get a PS5. But
Right.
like I'm not in that much of a rush to get the Series X, and when you described the Series S almost as like a sister console to like the One X, I was like, oh well, then I think truly want like the one that like pushes it as far as possible, which obviously makes sense that that's going to be the Series X. Um, I still think the Series S is like an incredible deal.
Mhm.
I think it's perfect for like my dad. He keeps like teetering. He's like, should I? And I'm like, I don't know. You could. Wouldn't be bad. I mean, we have bad internet speed, but you know, uh,
They have bad internet speed.
well, yeah, but you know, once you have it downloaded, it's
Yeah.
there, right? Like it's just you just have to like you just have to know on Monday, like, oh, Saturday I'm gonna have time. I should start downloading something.
Right.
And hopefully it'll be ready by Saturday.
Just,
But
like, throw it in your backpack and take it to work with you.
yeah, yeah. That's actually a really good point.
Yeah. That's what I'm
Um,
here for. Point good.
but yeah, I think it makes sense there. But yeah, I think the more I started thinking on it and like especially because I'm in such like a collector's mindset. Um, I feel like if I get a Series S, I'm gonna still end up feeling obligated to get a Series X. But if I get a Series X, I may not feel as obligated to get a Series S.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
So that's just kind of where I ended up landing, and I'm just like, yeah, I might as well just get the one that like pushes the hardware, you know. And I told myself
Yeah,
that
I
that doesn't matter that much to me, but I think like it actually does. I mean, I know that this isn't a good comparison, but I had to turn on the PS4 to um I don't know why I turned it on, but like it was just loading so slow and just like I was like, holy shit, this is so bad. Like
mhm.
I am so spoiled now that this is just impossible. And I mean, even when Shelby and I play like 7 days, a game where we're in the same world together, my clock in the game somehow will like start to get ahead of hers, like slowly, like ever so slowly, where like by the time we're done playing, and like granted, we've been playing for like, 3 hours or something like that, like my in game world will be 4 minutes ahead of her, just like the clock. Um, which 4 minutes is just 4 seconds, but still, like that's crazy.
I wonder if that's I'll be interested to see if that's the same experience that Justine and I have if we end up doing that with Forza.
Yeah,
I
well,
imagine it
go ahead.
I was saying, I imagine it won't be that much, like, different.
Hmm.
I would assume that, like, we would just queue into games at the Xbox One rate rather than the Series X rate, and then from there, it should really be no different, but I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and I also have to wonder because again, like I know it's not the best comparison, just because like that is a base PS4 that we're using compared to the PS5, whereas like
Yeah,
the
sure.
bridge from even a PS4 Pro would be a little bit closer, right? And like, um, so yeah, that might make a difference, but yeah, like it's wild. Like I it's like impossible to use, and it sounds like a jet engine, and it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I really only use my PS4 for PSVR at this point.
Hmm.
Um, so I guess it's noticeable. I feel like when I play VR, like, the only experience I have is the original PSVR. So I'm just kind of used to it in that, but definitely notice it playing games on the One X, more specifically, like the games that are currently coming out for like the Series X.
Mhm.
Like I had said last week, Madden takes forever. But
Yeah.
Rise Son of Rome, honestly, not that bad. It's not instant like the Series X is, but it's manageable.
Right. That makes sense. So anyway, that's where I landed.
All right. I'm
uh,
excited to hear what you're gonna play next week. Wink.
you're excited to hear what I'm going to play next week?
Yeah,
I think we'll probably have some similar answers, huh?
we might.
Ooh.
Some weird Inception stuff going on here.
Oh. Hey, what are you doing this weekend? Let's talk about this. This is what people care about. No. All right. We have some updates for Xbox and their their road to attempting to acquire Activision Blizzard. Um, Not a ton of updates, but granted, there's not really a ton of news to go off of. So this is in the GGBG universe. This is a filler episode. Um,
Yeah.
so take that for what it's worth. But updates nonetheless. I'll kind of let you take it away.
Yeah, so last week, Reuters reported. I knew I was going to struggle with
Reuters.
that. Reuters reported. Reuters reported that the EU is likely to approve the Microsoft Activision deal, specifically because of the deals that Microsoft made with Nintendo and Nvidia to bring Call of Duty to those platforms for 10 years. Um, I have like I saw this come out last week. Uh, and I read a lot of commentary on the article. I didn't actually read the Reuters article, but I I would love to hear like why they're saying that is true, like other than like sources say. You know, I feel like it's just so hard to take an article seriously when it's like a sources say kind of deal at this point. Um, And I don't know if you saw anything, but I didn't really see anything specifically in any of the commentary saying, "Oh, and this is why." Like, yeah, we know these are good deals, but these deals have also been on the table for many months. So why is it like just okay now that it's signed, or
Yeah. I
it's less conditional maybe than it was?
I didn't see anything concrete, but yeah, I kind of wonder if it's just like because of like how like quickly they were like moving through them and like showing like this deal, that deal, stuff like that. So I don't know if that's why all of a sudden they like felt yeah, or like you said, like it's like official or whatever. But um I feel like to begin with, like the fact that they were like saying that they had offered it to like Sony, right? Like that's the only one that hasn't really come out in terms of like a concrete deal. But like I feel like them saying like, well, the offer's on the table, like that alone should be enough. That's like, well, they're attempting to like play ball, So
Right. So the significance of this deal kind of goes back to the conversation that I think we were all kind of having at the end of December 2022. Um, the EU regulators are scheduled to decide, yay or nay on this deal by April 25. Um, it sounds like if it passes, then Microsoft is just going to go ahead, regardless of what the FTC and the CMA have to say about it.
mm-hmm.
Uh, so a lot of people now are just, explicitly saying, "Oh, this deal is going to go through."
Yeah.
It's very interesting. Like the day that this Reuters thing came out, my whole YouTube queue was filled with like Xbox deal approved, shit like that. It's like, well, I understand how major this is, but Microsoft is still talking about going against the FTC. So we'll see how that goes. Um, there was kind of, and I'm just kind of thinking about this, so I'm going off the cuff. Uh, Yesterday or today, I think it was technically like overnight. Um, the FTC lost a lawsuit to Binance because Binance was looking at buying a um, floundering crypto company, which seems like an oxymoron.
Hmm.
But you know, uh, none of the articles I was reading about that explicitly brought up the Xbox Activision deal, but just kind of the um, FTC's lack of knowledge on how technology works and how acquisitions in technology work, and how like just because a company with a lot of money buys someone doesn't mean it's a monopoly.
Right.
Uh, especially in instances like with crypto, with a company that at least on paper is doing fine, is trying to save some assets from another company that's not doing so great. You can kind of draw parallels to Microsoft buying Activision. Microsoft obviously doing fine, there's no question there. But buying Activision, which if Activision doesn't get bought, who knows? It might even be less competition because you know who knows if Activision goes out of business if nothing happens, not
Right.
necessarily with Microsoft, but in general.
Right.
So I'd be interested to see if like people have a commentary on that and how that might affect the FTC's thoughts on this Microsoft deal. But anyway, just thought that was interesting.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about it, I think, last week. It's just like, it blows my mind because, like, Sony, I think it was the FTC lawsuit, right? Where Sony, like, has to hand over, like, their business dealings since 2019 or whatever.
Hmm.
And I'm just like, I'm really trying to, like, rack my brain and understand how, like, once that's handed over and they look at that, how this doesn't just become, like, clear and cut. Like, I feel like all of these, like, no's, from these various groups are definitely just based off of whatever PlayStation's saying. And I feel like as soon as you see, like, it's already hypocritical when you just try and look at the two, like, side by side. Um and like what Sony's saying, and then like look at what Sony does, like, very publicly. But like as soon as you see like what's actually going on behind the scenes, like, again, we know about all these games that they like have for like these timed exclusives and stuff like that. That it's just like, again, it blows my mind as to how this wouldn't just be open shut.
Yeah, I agree, and it's kind of been a potent example of Microsoft playing the long game here because this deal went through and it was just like everyone against them, and they were just kind of taking that all in.
Hmm.
And now that things have slowed down, they are starting to fire back. Like, okay, um, here's what we're willing to do. We made all these concessions and guarantees to have this on other platforms. Um, and now they get this very positive for them ruling in the case that Sony has to hand over these documents. I mean, like you said, that can only do good things so long as it's uh you know ethically kind of dispersed into the conversation of the lawsuit,
Right.
which one of those things that'd be hard to hide, like major releases and things like that. But um yeah, it does feel like the tide is shifting. I don't want to do what some people are doing and say, "Oh, the EU is approving this, so like now we're good to go." But it does feel like the tide is shifting,
Yeah. 100%.
and now it feels like Sony's kind of grasping at straws.
Yes. Specifically, and Tom Warren tweeted earlier, and said that Sony is worried that Microsoft will sabotage Call of Duty for the PlayStation, Sony says it's concerned Microsoft could strategically degrade the quality and performance of Call of Duty on PlayStation, and then links to more details. Um, the the funny thing about that was that Daniel Ahmad was underneath it, and he said, "Hang on, I gotta find it now. It's very very funny." He said it's a legitimate concern. For example, Microsoft could mandate that you have to download over 100 gigabytes of data before you can even play the full game. That would be unreasonable. And then he immediately followed that up and said, one of these days I'll stop making jokes. And when I do, I think I'm really going to miss people losing their minds in the replies because they think I'm being serious. Just like shot chaser. So good.
Yeah,
Um,
oh, that's amazing.
yeah. Uh, No, but I think this tweet is really funny, and I texted you and said LMAO, no way, because like that just that just reads like you can't be serious. Like it reads. I'm so suspicious reading that, thinking like, okay, if you're worried that Microsoft's doing that, what have you been doing? Like, have you been doing this with other games? Um, there's been like
There are
a
other games that are available on so many other platforms. Yeah, they could be.
yeah. Well, there's this, streak of two games recently that have come out where the performance on the PS5 is better on than on the Xbox Series X. And one of those games was Hogwarts Legacy, which is one of the games that Sony had a lot of, or Sony had a partnership with in terms of like
Mm,
releasing content updates about it and like pushing stuff like that, and like it was partnered together, similar to how in this most recent state of play the Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League had 15 minutes. That Hogwarts Legacy got that, I want to say, tail end of last year, maybe it was the summer, but like they also had like a 15-minute showcase that like was up on Sony's channel and all that stuff. So it's just like I find that like interesting because isn't it that, I mean, I guess we've talked about this enough that like both consoles technically have these various spots where they do edge each other out, but like I feel like when it comes to like consistency and performance, that's where the Series X should almost always be better anyway. I think the only thing is that like load times are slightly better on the PS5 if I'm remembering correctly, but when it comes to like maintaining frames and not having drop frames and stuff like that, the Series X is the one that should clear every time, I thought.
I think it's dependent on the game. Um,
Okay.
like I'm thinking about the Cyberpunk update. I think it was Digital Foundry that did a video on it, and they said that um, I think that Xbox Series X could hit higher frames, but it would fluctuate so bad, whereas, and then this is just an example, this isn't what the numbers were. So
Hmm.
let's say that, 80% of the time, the Series X was hitting higher frames, but, there was that 20% where it was down at 30 or even below, whereas the PS5 will only get to 45 frames, but it will stay there. And I'm pretty sure the load times are better on the series consoles than on PS5
Okay.
because what is it called? It's like direct storage or something like that, but they have some deal where the storage on the series consoles has some direct connection to the processor,
Uh huh.
whereas the PS5 just works like most computers do, where the SSD and the CPU are just two separate
Right.
things, and that's why you can put, for all intents and purposes, any SSD in a PS5 that you want, and you have to get specific storage
Oh,
for the series consoles.
I gotcha. Well,
Sorry, that was my long-winded
no,
explanation.
no, that was perfect. I mean, regardless, the tweet feels like projection, um,
Yeah,
or No, not or. It does. That's it. Full stop. It feels like projection. If it's not projection and it's not them saying like, well, this is what we've been doing, now they're going to be able to do that, but with like the biggest game, which is Call of Duty. Um, let's say it's not projection, right? And they aren't, worried because it's what they've been doing. This has got to be the laziest attempt at like a gotcha, like, ever, like this
Mhm,
is like, it's like playing baseball as a kid and, the other team just wins and like you say they cheated, right? Like, no, you cheated. And it's like, no, it's just a normal game was played. Um, that's the level this feels like. It just feels so incredibly petty and small of Sony to basically be like, this is what they're gonna do, or this is what they could do, right? Like, oh no, feel bad
mhm.
for us. It's just bullshit.
But going, back to every, uh, lawsuit that has reached the governmental level, that's how you win against big tech, is, like, saying something that's so dumb that somebody who doesn't understand technology will think is a real thing.
Right, like Bill Gates is going to try and uh, uh, put a chip in your kid by making them switch their Xbox to a better power saving mode.
Right, right. And people ate that up.
Yeah,
Like, almost literally, like, uh, you know, there's just I think Sony understands that there's so little technological understanding in these boards that are reviewing these cases that they can say shit like that, and it's actually, like, a poignant point.
yeah. It's just crazy. I hate that this is what like where this is at, and like,
It makes the whole industry look bad. It
yeah,
makes the whole industry look dumb.
yeah, yes, yeah. Yeah. I just like, and I also just think about how this potentially just makes shit worse for Sony in the long run. All over again, all just over Call of Duty, because that's all it is. That's all they actually care about in all of this. They don't
Mhm.
care that literally like the face of the brand for all of like the PS1 era will now be on Xbox. They don't give a shit about that. That's Crash Bandicoot, by the way. Um, they literally only care about Call of Duty.
Yeah.
And it's insane. And like other stuff's come out. Like Microsoft is so prepared to just be like, whatever, we don't care. Like, hey, just so you know, we have MLB the show on our Game Pass. Um, if you wanted, you could take Call of Duty and put it on your subscription service. And Sony's like, that's troubling. Like, what?
And that's so funny because the reason that MLB The Show is on Xbox is because of a threatened antitrust suit with the MLBPA.
Right. Right.
And Sony fought so hard to have that, like, not be a thing.
It's so
And
it's so dumb.
yeah, yeah,
Ugh.
it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it's frustrating. We've said it before, just previously when covering this, and like I'm just so ready for this to be done.
Mhm.
It's so exhausting. And it's just so exhausting seeing just the brain dead takes that people have about all of it. Um, the only good thing to come out of this is that I have at the very least stopped seeing all of the like, this is who's gonna buy this next. Like Sony's gonna buy Take Two, which I actually did just see recently.
I was gonna say, that was, like, a
That
big
was like,
thing last week.
yeah, yeah. But like, you know what I mean? Like that's died down tremendously since, because if you remember, the like ZeniMax deal is what I think kicked off. Like, oh my god, wait, Bethesda can be bought? Oh, if Bethesda can be bought, oh, what if Sony bought this this person next, and oh, if Sony does that, then Xbox is literally just going to do this, and it's like shut the fuck up. And then Xbox flopped their dick out on the table and bought Activision Blizzard for 69 billion.
It is so funny that it's less of a conversation piece right now because if I were a company, now is the time that I'd be looking at acquiring somebody, especially like a public company. I
Right.
mean, Microsoft is buying Activision. Of course, they got in after all of the um, uh, scandal and after the price had dropped significantly, but you know they're still going to be paying. They're still going to be overpaying for Activision.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it could be a year from now. I mean, just with how the market's going. So it is funny that all these I guess I'll just call them gaming hype beasts are like, oh, this is going to happen to get clicks on my video. Like now's the time you should actually be talking about it because now's the time it's actually going to happen.
Yeah.
But that
Yeah.
being said, I don't think it's going to happen.
I also just keep thinking back to how like this deal was announced, and then I don't know, a couple months later or something like that, Sony acquired Bungie, and then that was
Right.
just it. Like nothing else was said about it.
And that's a big deal. I think that's a bigger deal than people kind of recognize.
Right. I don't know. Again, I just can't wait for it to be done.
Yeah.
Um, anything else on this though before we move on?
Now I'm ready to move on.
Let's
That was my fill of talking about lawsuits for the week.
let's do it. All right. So what's left? What is there for us to talk about before we get into our Last of Us spoiler cast? And I thought it would be kind of fun because again, this is a filler episode, and we don't typically talk about the games that we're like, we used to do it at the end of episodes where we would just kind of like throw shit at a wall and see what would stick in terms of like, oh, this game's going to be coming out. I'm looking forward to it, right? But like, it's actually been a while since we've talked about any games that we are genuinely excited for. So I was curious if, whether it's a game that you're just planning on playing pretty soon or a game that is going to be coming out, let's just say within this year or has at least been announced and going to be coming somewhat soon. I'm curious, are there any games that you're like dying to play?
So, kind of. I think it was last week. Microsoft did like they almost I mean it was almost a shadow drop of an update to Forza Horizon 5 and they're adding uh oh man, I'm blanking on it. But essentially like rally car racing.
Okay.
Um which they haven't had I think they said since the first Forza Horizon game. So it's like whatever the cars that are in like dirt, they're essentially putting dirt um into Forza. So last week they like shadow dropped this announcement. And the update doesn't come until the end of March, but just really excited that there's more major content coming out for Forza, and that's kind of what prompted me to jump back into it. And I'm glad I did because that allows me to get quite a bit further before that comes out. I'm hoping to like finish all the main story races and such, and then I'll just have more content right away.
Yeah, it's sick.
That's the main thing on my short list. Um, I'm really working through my Xbox One backlog, and there's one game that I've had probably since I've had an Xbox One that I really wanted to play, and I've talked about how great this game looks forever. And I think I'm finally going to force myself to play Sunset Overdrive.
Hell yeah. I'm actually really excited to hear about it whenever you do decide to play it. I feel like that would be potentially like one of the first games I would try to play just because I know that like people say it's like Spider-Man but not Spider-Man, right? Like
Mm.
it's the game though, like it's the build and everything. So it feels very similar. Um That's awesome. I really, yeah, really look forward to hearing about that.
Maybe the next time we hang out, you can try it out.
Oh, oh,
Whenever that
Mamma
is.
Mia.
Yeah, we can get pizza. Play some Sunset Overdrive. Hell yeah.
All right, all right. I look forward to it. Whenever that'll be.
Yep.
Um, nice. I think that's a solid plan. Um, anything else though? Like anything else? Maybe coming out this
It's
year.
fuck me, whatever. Coming out this year. Like, are we talking like the next month, or
No, the year 2023 as a whole.
are you trying to get me to say Starfield?
If it's on your list, I don't know.
It's one of those games that like I will continuously say I want to play, and then the day will come, and who knows?
Right, like you don't know that you'll actually even play it this year.
Yeah, it's gonna
Yeah.
be one of those games where I will download it day one. Um, I
That's
will play it for an hour,
mhm.
and I just like I struggle so much to get into games in the first hour, and I like if I could force myself to get past that wall, I'd probably find one of those games that I love, like Cyberpunk.
Right. So it's just a matter of how that first hour treats you.
Right.
I mean,
I
that's the
mean,
benefit. Go ahead, sorry.
if it like sucks me in, then sure, great, but that's so rare.
Yeah. All right. All right. Yeah, I mean, I never know how my year is really going to go, but I am excited because that Chia game, which Shelby keeps describing as Moana, the video game, um,
She needs to play Submerged Hidden Depths because that's what Justine called what I played on Stadia.
she called that Moana, the video game.
Yes.
Excellent. Well, that comes out, I want to say in like 2 weeks, March 21st, and it's day one on PS Plus. Um, and I was looking forward to that. Kind of reminds me of like Kana, and like Stray in terms of like the the caliber size of the game to like ratio of like cannot wait to like play it. So then it was just like icing on the cake that they were like, oh, it's gonna be on PlayStation Plus. So I was like, all right, bet. So I'm looking forward to that. And then similar to you, like there's some DLC like for Horizon coming out, and so um I'm actually I think going to try and play that. Um
Nice.
and then I'd say like the game that's probably like the biggest question mark for me that's like coming out this year and like but will I actually play it this year is probably actually I guess there's two. I think Hades 2 is supposed to come out this year. And after how much fun I had with Hades, I would say that if it does come out this year, I will definitely play Hades 2.
Mhm.
Um Obviously I'm excited for MLB the Show, but like that doesn't need to be said. I said it anyway. But Jedi Survivor.
Yep. Yeah, it is.
Um,
I was about to talk about that one.
that's probably the one that like I'm teetering the most on, where it like falls into the Starfield camp of like, I know I'm gonna get it. It's just a matter of will I actually get it the day it comes out, and then commit to like playing it. And so it'll really depend. Um, but that's probably like my main list of especially games that are coming out this year or new content that's coming out this year that I really want to make an effort to try and like be on top of. I can't think of anything else, but I'm sure there is. Oh, I actually do have one more. Cities Skylines. I don't know if you remember. That was the
That was
game that
just announced, or a new one was just announced like last week or something.
yeah, so I didn't like yeah, this is crazy, right? Because I want to say it was last week. Um I was just on the PlayStation Store because I love to like see what's coming out. Oh my god, I just remembered another thing that's coming out. Do you remember total aside, did you ever play the Mega Man Battle Network games?
I did. Those were the only ones I played.
Did you see that they're doing a collection where like all 10 are going to be bundled
Oh
together
my
for like
god, really?
$60?
That I might get.
Yeah, I that's also coming out this year. That comes out in April 16th. Don't
Oh, wow.
specifically quote me on that date, but that's around there. And I saw that all 10 are in there. They started to do the Pokemon thing where like after the first two, like there's two threes, two fours, two fives, and two sixes. So they're probably like the same game, but like minor differences. But nonetheless, that's also coming out this year. But I don't know if I'll get that this year. But that's something that I'm like genuinely really excited for because I loved those games.
Yeah, those were man, I might still have that might be one of the few Game Boy games I still have left.
I think I only, if I remember correctly, I know I definitely had one of the fives, and then I might have had like a three or one of the threes or one of the fours. But I just remembered I loved it so much, and then when I saw that they
Yeah.
were like putting them all together, I was like, oh my god. But
I
okay,
think you're actually the one who got me into that game.
really,
I think you had it, and I may have gotten it at GameStop or something
that's so funny.
pretty soon after that.
Um,
Justine's actually excited for that game. Apparently, she played Mega Man on the Dreamcast when they were kids.
oh yeah, though
Yeah.
I mean, this is not like the like
Yeah,
platformer Mega Man, which
I
Justine
think
is
something like
literally.
that.
I love finding out the lore of Justine and how she's like this like badass platformer gamer because platformers are just like they are just the fucking worst for me sometimes. So I have such an
Mhm.
appreciation for anybody who can like um play those and like watching speedruns of platformers. That's also like mildly addicting. Um
She always wants to play New Super Mario Bros. With me. I'm like, "Okay." And then
if you can carry.
I'll, like, die, and I'll be like, literally, "Just don't pop me," because you know how you, like, come in on a bubble?
Yes, yes.
I was
Shelby
like, "Just go."
and Shelby and I do that too. Where like one of us dies, and it's just like, don't stop for me, go. Oh my god. Okay, sorry, I interrupted myself like three different times. City Skylines, right? So I'm on the PlayStation Store, and I see that the original game got an upgrade for next gen and it's free. So I was like, oh hell yeah, like an excuse to like hop back into this game. I love this game so much. And then I shit you not, like yeah, earlier this week, I want to say like Monday, I see a tweet that's like, yeah, they're making a second one. And I was like, let's fucking go. It's the perfect game. It's a simulator that scratches that itch for me and
Which is
uh
that scratch?
it itches that scratch, yep. And I'm really looking forward to it because I should say like the first one's really good and like has all these like cool ideas and it's just like the perfect game to try new things like quirky things like somebody pointed out like the only way in the first game the way you have to start your city is off of a highway and somebody was like oh I don't know maybe you could start a city off of a train
Mhm.
and like and just have like small roads like going out of it for the most part you don't need like to necessarily have um uh like massive highway to get to and from it but anyway so it just seems like an opportunity for them to like try and get like into like the nitty gritty and go realistic with some other things that they didn't even get to like play around with in the first one so I'm really looking forward to that as well.
I think that's coming to PSVR, isn't it?
Is it?
I think sorry, I should probably look.
Yeah, what the fuck, dude?
Yeah, fuck.
I mean, I don't think that'll still be enough for me to get PSVR, but that would be pretty sick because it visually it looks really good. So,
I kind of think the first one was on PSVR too.
oh really?
Or that okay, sorry. There's a Cities VR coming out. I don't know if that's the same.
Cities VR is that is City Skylines. It looks like
Okay,
at least the
like
like
the original.
the yeah. But it looks like it's the enhanced edition. So like that must be like part of like the upgrade in the PS4 to PS5 version is that it's now playable on.
Gotcha.
But I don't. Yeah. It's just the VR version of the game.
I should play City Skyline. It's on Game Pass.
It's like addicting. It really is. It's very fun. I don't know if you ever played like Sim City or like any of those types of games.
Very,
Uh,
very old ones.
yeah. So like, yeah. I mean, those were like the PC games I played. I used to technically be a PC gamer. And I'd play like, I guess technically my main one was Roller Coaster Tycoon, like the original Roller Coaster Tycoon. But
Mhm.
the idea is still basically the same. Instead of building just a city, you're building specifically an amusement park. But um, just absolutely loved them. The like little joy and satisfaction you get of watching the population just like tick up. Um, it's just satisfying.
Well, I think I know what I'm doing with my evening.
Ho ho, ho ho. What? What do you think you're gonna
I have to clean,
do?
or else my wife said I can't have friends over.
My wife. Um, yeah. Well, I hijacked that. I ended up listing like 7 games I'm excited for, and
Oh,
so
you did your research. I didn't. You deserve the airtime.
catch me at the end of the year having played none of them with 2,500 hours in MLB The Show 23.
Uh-huh.
Um, all right. Well,
There's
yes.
what did I just see? I thought there's maybe one more game coming out, but now I'm getting conflicting stories.
Spoderman.
Yes. No, the crime boss, Rockay City.
Is that this year?
It came up in I don't know, I just googled games coming out March 2023. And it looks like maybe March 28th.
Hmm.
If I could just get to a website that would tell me.
I know. I'm trying to pull up good old GameSpot.
This is saying 328. This is the Epic Game Store.
Yeah. Yeah. It
That
looks
was a
like. Wait, is that the game with like what's his name from like the Tarantino films? Yeah. Okay, shit. I thought this was coming out on consoles.
it is eventually.
Cuz on GameSpot it's just saying PC for March 28th.
Oh. Well, yeah, maybe.
Interesting. Well, that one's definitely one I'm going to sit back and kind of
See how it
yeah, that one makes me a little nervous cuz it looks good. It looks like right up my alley in terms of like just like the kind of, you know, just the typical like GTA Saints Row crime game.
Mhm.
And it looks like it would be really fun and like just in general, like graphics wise, looks really good. But it also like those are the types of games that make me a little nervous sometimes. Um, but that being said, I can rattle off like like Sleeping Dogs was like uh basically just like yeah, it takes place in Japan. Don't cancel me.
Oh,
Um,
too late.
but like that was basically just GTA, but in Japan. Um, and I feel like I just played another one not too long ago where it's just like it's literally all it is. But regardless, love games like that. So, but it just makes me nervous. So we'll see. Um, anything else? Anything else that you like saw pop up that you're like, oh shit, that's this year?
I was going to say I'm so excited for Jedi Survivor,
Mm-hmm.
but I still need to beat Fallen Order.
Yeah,
And I'm hoping
dude.
that it seems like EA games are coming to Game Pass like around the 6 to 8 month mark after they come out. So I think I have some time.
Yeah, Fallen Order's so good. I want to play that again before Survivor comes out. Because that's such a good game. All right. Well, that's it for the main part of the podcast. Now we can get into honestly the part that I look forward to every week because it's quite literally the thing I look forward to in my week, which is The Last of Us. And so let's talk about episode 8. I think there's a lot to talk about here, especially in terms of like how it compares to the game. Um, so let this be the warning if you don't want to hear any spoilers for what happens in this episode, or how it correlates to the game, especially. Um, then it's been a pleasure. Thanks for listening, as always. And if you do want to stick around, Mike, let's get into it. What were your thoughts on episode 8 of The Last of Us?
I definitely enjoyed this episode more than like the past 2 or 3, I'd say.
Uh huh.
Um, I just think it's such an interesting, part of the story and, coming of age for Ellie,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like this is, thinking back on it, this episode made me think back a lot on, The Last of Us game series and be like, "This is really, this is where The Last of Us Part 2 begins," in my opinion.
In some ways, yeah.
Yeah. So, to me, it was a pretty pivotal episode. Um, I think, the cast did a really good job of, David is just such this interesting character, and, I feel like the actor for David did a really good job of, having this weird personality and conflict, and, there was the conversation about religion in this episode and how David found God after the pandemic started, and Ellie thought that was strange, and just seeing Ellie really learn about religion, because it doesn't really seem like she was exposed to that in her life, because her life has really only been since the breakout.
Right.
And I always just think there's a lot of it in the last episode, the episode before this too, just seeing Ellie learn about things that we consider normal is just such a surreal feeling for me, the viewer.
Right. Yeah. That's that's like the best part about Ellie throughout the entire first game is like you have those moments like that. But you bring up a great point that like this is the moment where, especially because she's like all on her own, um, where not only is she learning about like things that just were present and like just not so much anymore, but like she also just gets served a huge life lesson by having to like be on her own and not have Joel there to protect her like she had for the first 6 episodes. Um, it's crazy. It's crazy the growth that like you see, and then you still get those moments where you're like, she's just a scared kid. Um,
Right.
like trading the deer for medicine, right? And she kind of like tips her hand, right? Like, why are you so eager for medicine? Like that gives them like all the information that they need. Um, just like crazy moments like that, right? Where it's like she's so mature in the moment, yet still a child. Um, but yeah, they did David perfectly. The only I'll say like minor thing that I would say I'm now at the point where I'm like, okay, I'm kind of starting to miss this. And I think I've seen some other people raise this is that like you didn't have the, David and Ellie needing to work together to fend off like a bunch of like the clickers and uh it further like showcased how like the zombies or the monsters aren't really like that present in the show. But I also think that's kind of a good thing because the whole like the true bad guy or the true monsters in the games even are just the people, right?
Right.
And it's just like, what humanity does to each other and like uh so in that sense I kind of love it, right? And like they don't give too much power to the zombies because they really aren't the issue, or I guess not zombies, infected. Uh, but yeah, I have a
I have
question. Okay, sorry.
I have an answer.
Okay, um, if you have penicillin, where are you supposed to inject that?
I didn't think it mattered.
I didn't think so either, but she injected it right into.
The wound.
Yeah,
I
and I was
mean,
like, I don't know if you need to do that. Which I mean, he was like passed out, so like it's it's not like he was in
right.
agonizing pain or anything. And obviously, if he was awake, I guess he could have told her like, you don't need to put it there. But I just thought that was like watching her like, where the fuck do I put this? And then that's what she decides. I was like, I don't know if you needed to do that. Like, ooh,
I guess it makes like I don't know. I
oh
feel like if I were in that situation, I would probably do the same because like that's
yes,
where the wound is, that's where the medicine needs to go. If it were topical, that's where the medicine needed to go. So me
right,
having zero medical experience in my life, I probably would have done the same thing. Whether or
sure.
not that's right or wrong, I don't know. Hence why I probably would have done the same thing.
No, definitely. I just Shelby and I were sitting there watching it, and like both of us were like wincing, and we were
Oh
both
yeah,
like,
me too.
"Do you?" We were like, "Did she need to do that?" And I was like, "If you take an antibiotic like through your mouth, it still works its magic, right?" Like,
Right.
so. And Shelby was like, "Yeah, I think at that point you just need to get it into the bloodstream somehow." And I was like, "Well, I guess that's the when in doubt, it made the most sense for sure." Um, that was like a, I'll say mildly funny moment where Shelby and I were just like, "Ooh, ooh." uh, but yeah, sorry, I interrupted you with that question. What were you gonna say?
No, you're good. I saw a tweet last week. I think it might have been right before the episode came out. I'm trying to figure out who it was because I really don't know. I'm going to assume probably Alana,
Hmm.
but I really don't know who it is, so I apologize to whoever it was. But someone said um, something along the lines of like, "I love seeing people complain about how there's not enough like mushroom people in The Last of Us when it's really a show about the human experience."
Yeah,
And
100%.
I was like, "Yeah, that's pretty much it." Like the killing the mushroom people in the games was just like filler to get you from storyline to storyline, but
A
it was
hundred
really
percent.
about what was happening in the storyline.
No, you're absolutely right. And like, um, I had something off of that where, uh, oh, like somebody I think was just like, oh, I don't feel like I'm really in that much danger in this situation. And it's like, yeah, because you're not in danger until like there's actual people around. Uh
Right.
I also saw somebody I think Shelby saw it all like it was like a TikTok or something where someone was like, "Give me more of this," and it was a clicker, and they were like, "And a lot less of this," and they pointed, and it was David, and they were like, "Because this," and it goes back to the clicker, and they're like, "This isn't real," and then they went back to David, and they went, "But this, David's fucking real, and David's out there somewhere," and they were like, "And that scares the shit out of me," and I was like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
because the people are the problem." So no, I 100% get that. There were just like a lot of like cool moments. Like I think about how I think about like cool moments where they were like prevalent in like big story beats, but you raise a perfect point of like they're just kind of the thing to get you from story beat to story beat for the most part. Um, so just interesting. It'll be interesting to see if they have to deal with them in this upcoming episode when they have to like
Yeah.
go into this, because that was my least favorite fucking part of the game until I finally like found the perfect way to just like sneak around all of them. Because there's like two clickers and a fat one, and or two fat ones or
Bloaters.
something. Bloaters.
Yeah. The ones that like explode on you.
Yeah. What the hell are
Yeah.
the ones called in the second game though? I thought those were
There's like
bloaters.
yeah, but I think there's bloaters in both games.
Oh, I thought there was like a weird like
There's like stalkers, which I think are
uh
new to the
uh
those are the ones that just kind of pop out at you.
yeah, don't remind me. Those
Those
were
are
the
the ones
only
you
things
can.
that like jumps made me jump scare. Like
Yeah.
were the stalkers.
See, I thought that that was really gonna, like, get me in that game, and then I'd, like, walk into a room and be like, "I see you over there, motherfucker."
Yeah. Yeah, you see
It's like
that
once you can
one.
learn to predict them, you're like, "There he is."
You see them and then you start walking and one just like jumps out at you. And you're like, "Ah,
Yeah.
I didn't see you."
"Boogity boogity."
Yeah.
They should make noises like that.
They should. That would make it actually better. Um I thought, yeah. So you said like David was really well done. It's crazy to think about like in the game that's Nolan North, and it's so like not Nolan North that it's like
Right.
really creepy. But yeah, David did this really well. Or the actor who portrayed David did this really well, and um, I think the overall pacing of the episode was phenomenal.
Mhm.
Um, like it was like a perfect balance of like I can't believe it's already over, but I also can't believe just how much we got in like just 50 minutes. Like it was so much. Um and like we managed to get like the both the like, Ellie off and after she gets captured and everything, and like Joel then like still like hunting to find her. We got the phenomenal point to on the map, and if your buddy points to the same place, which is the hardest like moment in any game that I can really think of, where I'm just like, oh yeah, oh yeah, like
Mhm.
that goes so hard. Um, Thought that was phenomenal, and potentially like one of the like top moments of the episode, or like top parts of the episode, is that Troy Baker, original Joel, video game Joel, is in the episode and has like he's like uh Jeffrey Pierce, who's Tommy in the game. He's like basically that level of character where like ton of lines and like is like the right hand man of David. And I thought he did a phenomenal job too, and it was awesome to like see him. And anytime he showed up uh on screen and David called him James, I just turned to Shelby and went, Troy. It's Troy. That's
Mhm.
Troy Baker. Um, but yeah, I thought he did a really good job, and it was really funny watching him have to unfortunately die. Because I was like, oh wow, they really put him through it, huh? They gave him a start and a clear finish, and you love and hate to see it. Um,
He tweeted, he's like, "I really thought I was just gonna be a clicker, so this
yeah,
kinda feels like an upgrade."
I know. I saw that too, and I was like, I'm so happy that like they got him in there. I'm pretty sure Ashley Johnson's in the final episode,
Mm,
which is also awesome. I think it's so cool.
I have a guess as to wait, was that the am I thinking of the 2nd? I think I'm thinking of the 2nd game. Let's say I have a guess as to who she's going to be, but I don't think it's a character that's prevalent until the 2nd game.
Hmm. Well, it'll be interesting because so that's the other great thing about this episode is that you get more of what's going on with like David and that group, and you get some like backstory there um that you just don't get from
Right.
the game, right? Because like that's the great part, is that it can cut away and show you Bill, it can cut away and show you David and uh Sam and Henry, and like what they're doing, and like give you just like a little bit extra there. And that's just
I
that's
think
that's what I love so much about the show.
I think what's really deep about this is, we talk about kinda like what you said where, like, the Davids of the world are out there, but clickers aren't. And I feel like it just takes really good writing and really good direction to be like, "We're gonna make, like, 3/4 of this episode the foundation of David,"
Hmm.
and, like, yeah, without putting any other brain power into it, he's just a fucking creep. But really, he's got all this pressure of being a leader and, like, people expecting him to be a messiah
Hmm.
and all this kinda stuff, and, like, it's not like this guy is just creepy for the sake of being creepy, like, there's a reason behind it.
Right.
One thing I want to say about the episode, and I hate that I did not play all the way through The Last of Us before the show came out because the whole episode I was like, "Oh, here comes the boss fight in the steakhouse that I remember being a real bitch."
Mhm.
And I don't remember if it actually was or not.
I don't think it is. If I because I played it now, I played it right before The Last of Us 2 came out, and I don't remember. I don't think it's actually that hard.
Because you couldn't just straight up attack him, right? Like, then you have to throw
Yeah, you had
things.
to like throw things, then he'd walk over towards it, and then you had to get behind him. I think,
Okay.
if I
I'm just
remember
trying to
correctly.
I just remember, like, there not being many things to throw and just getting cornered really easily. I feel like it took me quite a while.
I'll tell you.
Um,
I'll tell you what's a real bitch in The Last of Us world. Real quick, earmuffs. Spoilers for Last of Us 2, just in case, because I didn't put that at the beginning of this. The spoilers now. Okay. Uh, the Abby versus Ellie in the theater where you're
mhm.
Abby, the fucking worst. I
Where you're Abby. Yes. I
and
know what you're talking about.
yeah, and Ellie's like dropping fucking like traps and shit, and you're like, what the fuck? And she just comes out of nowhere. The worst.
I'm pretty sure I cheesed the hell out of that and just
I
had a bunch of, like, bombs already created.
I think at one point it glitched and Ellie was just running into a wall, and I still fucking lost. Well, I remember hating that. But anyway, back to the show. Um,
Yeah. And going back to the point of, like, the Ellie David fight,
mhm,
like, it was literally, she crawled into one spot, grabbed a knife, and then stabbed him, and that
mhm,
was it.
yeah.
I just remember that being a lot more. Not that it was bad, like, I don't think we needed to have
Yeah.
15-minute boss fight of Ellie creeping around, finding bottles and throwing them, though I will say there is a disappointing lack of people getting nogged with bricks in the show.
Agreed, agreed. Hard agree.
But
Yeah, no. That's a really fair point. I also think there's not enough Joel crafting shivs and
yeah,
stuff like that.
too much ammo.
Uh, but I saw a basically like the final cutscene of the David fight, where they're really wrestling with each other, to like basically the end, and like it was pretty close to shot for shot. I think like the only difference is that in the game, Joel comes into the building, whereas in the show, Ellie leaves, and then Joel like kind of grabs her.
Mm,
Um, which like that's such like a such a moment, right? Like it's so fast where it's like Joel yelling at her to like say like it's me and all that stuff, and like happened so quick, but like just like the little bit of time that you have where it's like Joel's face and he can realize like the fear in Ellie in that moment is just
mhm,
like again, it's so amazing how it's conveyed in the game and in the show, like with real people and everything. It just you feel it. I feel like so much more in certain cases, and that was a moment where it's so fast, where like they start to like then like walk and everything, but like you see Joel's face and like it's conveyed so perfectly of like, oh my god, like what did this kid just have to fucking go through? Because I was on like on my back, laid up with an infection. Just
mhm.
crazy. Just absolutely crazy. This this might have been my favorite episode. Might be recency bias, but I thought this was so freaking good. And it's such a
Yeah.
great part of the game too. So
Yeah, it definitely felt more like I don't know, I love the Sam and Henry story, but I don't
hmm
remember loving, like, that part of the game. Like, I remember finding that kinda, like, I don't know, not my favorite part,
hmm
but I do remember really liking this part in the game, so it's just kinda like what hit the nostalgia, what hit the, "Oh, yeah, like, this part was so great." Um, Yeah, I definitely think it's probably my favorite one since episode 3. I feel like I'm going to have to watch the whole season over again, start
Hmm.
to finish, to really, like, get my favorite episode.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely up there with three. Like, because three had been my favorite. Um, but yeah, like I said, recency might be what's pushing this ahead for me. I'm super excited, super stoked for the next episode. I'm really curious to see like what story beats they decide to like focus in on because this is the finale. So
Better
curious
be
if
giraffe.
what's that?
Better be
There
giraffes.
better be giraffes, which they had the monkeys, so fingers crossed for the giraffes. Um, but yeah, there's definitely a couple of like there's a couple of like bonus things that like we didn't get in the game that we could get here based on like what we know, especially with like the second game and stuff like that. So I'm curious like what happens with that and yeah, I cannot wait. I can't believe it's already over. It's a little bittersweet.
Yeah, it is very sad, but I'm just living on pretending that The Mandalorian is just a continuation.
The Pascal is a single father with a child that he's tasked with protecting universe.
Yeah.
Um yeah.
Next, I'm moving on to The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent because that feels like it also fits in that group, kind of.
Yeah. I was telling Shelby, unironically, we have to watch every Nicolas Cage film so we can watch that movie and understand every single reference and laugh at them. Um, yeah. All right. Well, I think that does it for this episode. So maybe we'll put a little more time into next week because of it being the finale and just kind of like re-talking about certain things from the entire season. But yeah. Uh, Otherwise, thanks for sticking around if you did. And thanks so much for listening. As always, if you could leave us a rating or review wherever you listen, be greatly appreciated. And another reminder right at the end, I should put this at the top, but we do release the podcast now, just the audio, but it is released on YouTube. So be sure to go subscribe to the YouTube channel and leave comments on the videos there. I do also, if it works out nicely, I will break out like certain sections of the podcast and release those as standalone videos. So it's like a little bit more easy to digest the news of that certain week. So you can look forward to those typically the day after the podcast releases. But yeah, other than that, thanks so much. And be sure to share with someone in your life who really reminds you of David. And we'll talk to you next week.